Apple Rumors Roundup 360 times 2, and are smartphones boring, or is it just you? Tech News Tonight is next.
This is Twit.
This is Tech News Tonight, episode 416 for Wednesday, September 2nd, 2015. This episode is brought to you by the new Epson Workforce printers powered by Precision Core. Workforce is an award-winning line of all-in-one printers for your home office, small to large business, or corporate work groups. Visit Epson.com to find out more. Welcome. I am Megan Morrone. Let's get to today's big news. It's exactly 1 week until Apple's big announcement on Wednesday, 9/9. And the rumor mill is just about to boil over. Here to talk about two of the biggest rumors of the day is Harry McCracken, technology editor at Fast Company. Welcome back, Harry.
Great to be here.
So let's first talk about the iPad Pro. We've been hearing this rumor for at least a year, for a long time. The iPad Pro will allegedly be a business device with a bigger screen, more power, perhaps with ports, maybe a stylus. What was the new rumor we heard about the iPad Pro today?
Well, the idea has been out there for a long time, and it's never been clear when Apple might announce it. And a few weeks ago, they talked about it being announced next week, and then the rumors seemed to shift to it being announced in October. But as of now, Mark Gurman at 9 to 5 Mac is back to saying that it will be announced next week. So we might know for sure what's going on in just a few days, and it might then ship in November. So there might be a fairly long break before it's actually available.
So the new iPad will allegedly be called the iPad Pro. And like you said, it's scheduled to hit retail outlets in November, according to these rumors. Then there'll be a pre-order campaign and launch toward the end of October. Now, is this something that you're interested in getting, a bigger iPad for business?
For selfish reasons, I'm really interested in that. For several years, I have used an iPad as one of my primary computing devices, and I've added an external Bluetooth keyboard, and it works really well, but a larger screen would be nice. A real Apple-designed keyboard would be great. No iPad has a really good stylus because iPads were not designed for styluses, but if the iPad Pro was designed from the ground up with pressure sensitivity in mind, that could be really neat for drawing and doodling. So this is a sort of device where I'm interested, not just as a journalist, but because I would like to have one.
So yeah, the rumor is that there'll be Force Touch, which is kind of like what they have in the Apple Watch. And then we've heard that that's going to be in the new iPhones. And that would make sense if it's an iPad with a stylus. Now, we also heard that there was a new deal last week with Cisco. Apple and Cisco, they had a press release that was a little bit confusing to anyone who wasn't really in the enterprise space. But a lot of news sources were reporting it as an internet fast line for iPhone, but it also talks about iPads. So do you think that this press release about the deal with Cisco and Apple also leads to the idea that there's going to be a business iPad?
Well, Apple is definitely interested in catering more to businesses. They have a relationship with IBM they've had for a while that seems to be going well. There's this news from Cisco. And just in general, as important as the iPad is, its sales have actually been declining for several quarters. And it's pretty clear that to get them moving again, Apple has to do something. And making an iPad that was catered a little bit more to people who are going to use it for productivity as opposed to just watching movies or playing games or doing more light consumption might be a way to appeal to a powerful group of people who are actually willing to pay fairly large amounts of money for computing devices.
Well, no, there's been bigger tablets before. There's, of course, the Surface, and then, there was a Samsung tablet that was large that our producer, Jason Cleanthe, said he had, and it just felt like he was carrying around a piece of glass. It hasn't really caught on. Do you think that a business-sized iPad will catch on? Well,
the interesting thing about Apple is they have a long history of entering markets that don't seem to be doing all that well and nailing it. I think if it is going to be successful, it will probably be a little bit less about a device you hold up like a book, because large screens are clunky for that kind of use. And it might be more about something that you sit on a desk or at least your lap, and is more about text entry. On a current iPad or an iPad mini, it's kind of hard to type, but if you add more screen space, input might work better. So my guess is if it makes sense, it's because it's not just a smaller iPad with a bigger screen.
So it's that kind of case where Apple sort of sits back and sees how everything that everybody else gets wrong, and then they come in and do it all right. We hope. So have you heard anything about the next generation iPad mini? That's also in the rumor mill.
Not a huge amount. I mean, what we know, that might look a little bit more like the iPad Air. Normally you get a faster processor, maybe a better screen. It's usually a little bit thinner with the same battery life. It'll be interesting to see if Force Touch becomes part of that, because presumably Apple plans over time to put Force Touch across all of its touchscreen devices.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait until next week to find out for sure about those two rumors. But here's another rumor we've been hearing about: Apple TV. Now, you guys at Fast Company just posted an interesting rumor roundup piece about all the Apple TV rumors. It sounds like they might be adding up to a device that combines features that we know and love from devices like Roku, but then with Siri functionality and some kind of killer remote. What do you think about the Apple TV? Do you think we'll hear about it next week?
Well, that does sound like a done deal, and it sounds like we have lots of details that sound like they're probably on target. So physically, the box will look fairly similar, but it will run full iOS and have an app store. It will offer universal search. So, of course, you'll be able to buy content from Apple, but you'll also be able to search across services like Netflix and Hulu to find stuff. The remote sounds really interesting. It sounds like it's going to have a touchpad and voice input for Siri, and you'll be able to do motion control for gaming. The price tag is apparently $149, which is more than they've been charging for the current generation Apple TV, but this one sounds like it does a whole lot more, and the remote sounds like something that would not be cheap to build, so it's not surprising if the price does go up.
You talked about the universal search feature. A lot of people are talking about this like it's some amazing thing. I mean, I can do that with my Roku right now, except for I can't search iTunes. Is that the only difference? Am I missing something about this universal search?
Yeah, it's not Apple doing anything that's a breakthrough. It's more Apple responding to other folks, and voice search as well. Roku has that. Amazon's Fire TV has that. So it's not that any of these ideas are groundbreaking, and it'll be interesting to see, what Apple-type twists Apple puts on them and the level of polish it brings to these things. Up until now, Apple TV, as nice as it's been, I mean, they've offered way fewer channels than Roku, and there's been no way to search them. And that's one of the reasons why Roku has continued to do really well. People always expect Roku might be killed off by Apple TV, and so far it's not come anywhere near happening.
Well, Harry, thank you so much. Are you going to be covering the event next week, I presume?
I will be there on site writing from the event.
Well, great. Do you have any clues to why it's at a different venue this time, why it's at the big venue? Any guesses as to why? Are they going to pack it in with 7,000 people or clear out the seats and do some amazing thing we've never heard of?
People are wondering. I work right across the street, so I'm going to be keeping an eye out to see if I can figure out anything. My guess is that they'll have really large demo areas and just all the space they need. Typically, when they do events in San Francisco, they're in really cramped quarters, and for them, having all the space they want, I think would be a blessing.
Well, if you see something that looks like an Apple car driving in there, will I be the first person that you email to let that story break?
I will text you immediately.
Okay, thank you, Harry. Harry McCracken is the technology editor at Fast Company, and he's at Harry McCracken on Twitter. Thank you so much for joining us.
Always fun.
Take care. Coming up, where robots go to learn and a super drone for one. But first, this episode is brought to you by the new Epson Workforce printers powered by Precision Core. Now you can do business better and leave laser printing in the dark. The new Epson Workforce printers use ink, not laser toner, but they're more efficient. The cost per page is up to half a color laser printer. Epson developed a new print chip nozzle. They call it the Precision Core. These nozzles fire nearly 40 million dots per second to deliver the most appropriate amount of ink to achieve high-quality, high-speed printing. You get print shop quality with vibrant colors and clear, crisp text. The high-resolution Epson print chips are one of the fastest inkjet printing technologies in the world. Workforce printers make mobile device printing easy with work group connectivity, and you cut costs without compromising quality. Go to Epson.com today and find out what the new Workforce printers can do for you and your business. That is EPSON.com. Epson, built to perform. Now on to some other stories we're following. The IFA Technology Conference is in full swing in Berlin, and that's where today Motorola announced 2 new Moto 360 smartwatches, including one for the ladies. The Moto 360 is for the fashion conscious, whereas the Moto 360 Sport is for those with a more active lifestyle. Using the Moto Maker website, you can choose your case colors and mix and match the colors of the bezel and bands. Your watch can basically look however you want it to look, as long as you want it to be round. You can pre-order the men's and women's Moto 360 starting today, and they'll ship in a couple of weeks. Those will cost you between $299.99 to $429.99. No word yet on the price of the Moto 360 Sport, but I'm guessing it will be cheaper than the $350 price tag for an Apple Watch. The MIT Technology Review reports that your phone can now do everything, including notify you when you're bored. Next week at UbiComp, the ubiquitous computing conference in Japan, scientists from Telefonica Research in Barcelona, Spain, will show off an algorithm they've developed that looks at your mobile activity to determine whether you're bored or not. Now, last week, I talked to Jonathan Strickland from How Stuff Works about another organization using algorithms to determine your state of mind. That one was trying to figure out the best time to show you smartphone notifications. With this new algorithm from Telefonica Research, they think that if you're bored, it helps you to do what you really want to do, and then it will send you an article from BuzzFeed. Now, this is scientific research that at this point, I imagine is exactly the kind of scientific research that content providers and advertisers would be dying to get their hands on. In other machine learning news, Bloomberg Business has a piece today on a lab in Berkeley designed to send robots to preschool. Take a look at the article, watch the video, because there is almost nothing cuter and therefore potentially terrifying than watching robots build with Lego. Brett is a robot designed to learn tasks in the same way children learn how to discover their world without those pesky temper tantrums that real toddlers are prone to having. In other words, they want robots that are adaptable, and the idea is to design a robot capable of developing the sorts of broad knowledge used to solve the kinds of problems that people can solve. Also, Brett is not just a cute androgynous name for a preschool robot, it's also an acronym for Berkeley Robot for the Elimination of Tedious Tasks. I highly recommend reading the whole article, which I put up on our Facebook page at facebook.com/technewstonight. I do not, however, recommend having children because you think they might be good at doing your tedious tasks for you, because they are not. And in other ways to be socially conscious with your fortune news, Tesla has announced pricing for their signature series Model X for between $132,000 to $144,000. You get all-wheel drive powered by 2 independent digitally controlled electric motors. There's also those fold-up Falcon Wing rear doors and a 3rd row of seats. And finally, do you want to fly? All it takes is 54 propellers and a dream. Browsing on The Verge today, I found a video of the Swarm manned aerial vehicle multi-rotor super drone. Now, it's a confusing name for a device since drone usually means an unmanned vehicle, and there's certainly a man in this homemade drone designed with 54 propellers and a controller that this man bought at the Hobby King. The aircraft basically barely gets off the ground, but is inspiring nonetheless. Once it gets a little bit higher, the person manning the video camera, which I assume might be this person's wife, gets very nervous, says, "Be careful." It's an amusing watch. I highly recommend it. That is it for this edition of Tech News Tonight. If you're going to be in the San Francisco Bay Area, come watch the show live. Just email tickets at twit.tv. They are free. You can also subscribe to the show, also free, at twit.tv/TN2. Write to us at TN2 at twit.tv and watch live every weekday at 4 p.m. Pacific. And don't miss our morning news program, Tech News Today, every weekday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. I'm Megan Morrone. Thanks for watching.
Bandwidth for Tech News Tonight is brought to you by CashFly.com.